After starting my new full-time job, I didn't write for over 4 weeks, like not a single word. But by the end of that month, I really wanted to get back into it. I was just getting really excited. I had new ideas I really wanted to implement in my story. But I want to approach the revision of my old thriller novel a little bit different than I had been. Because before, I was just letting myself do whatever I wanted. I was kind of spinning my wheels a little bit in Act 1, wanting to go back and restart every time I had a new idea. So to be able to keep the momentum and the drive to get through the end of the book, I decided to create a like chapter by chapter tracker, which I've used in the past with other revisions and honestly works really well for me. I managed to fly through the first like 10 or 11 chapters in one long writing session just because I had done so much work on them before. And so it didn't take a lot for me to implement the new changes I had in mind. But starting around, I think it was chapter 13, things got a lot tougher. That's when I was previously revising, I got a little bit lazier and things weren't quite feeling as smooth. And so it took me multiple writing sessions to get through those chapters and reworking things and trying things out and not liking it and scrapping it and restarting. And I finally feel like I have a little bit of a groove again. Being able to say, like, yes, I'm happy with this chapter, let's move on, and has really helped me like not look back and think about going back to tweak other chapters. I also feel like those chapters are truly done because one of the biggest things I was struggling with the first time through this revision was I just like didn't know exactly how I wanted to play the unreliable narrator because I used it to an extent, but I felt like I could really like milk it for more of its like premise of that like promise I'm making to the reader. But I didn't know how I wanted to crack it for how I wanted to write an unreliable narrator as well as how I wanted to implement it in the story. But then I had an idea of how I wanted to use it, and it honestly really strengthens some of the things I wanted to play with at the end of the novel that I hadn't quite realized how I wanted to do that yet. So, with all that being said, I am now on chapter 16, and the first 15 chapters I am so pleased with. And I'm honestly so excited to get through the rest of these stories and keep trickling in all of these changes. I'm not sure what to do because chapter 16 went really well. It was mostly just like fleshing it out, adding more description, kind of adding a little bit more obstacles before she gets what she needs for that chapter. But chapter 17, I've been toying with it both yesterday afternoon and today. This is like the second day of my weekend. And the reason I'm saying it like that is because I have like a Tuesday, Wednesday weekend. So for me, it's the weekend. It would be a Sunday, but for everyone else, it's just a regular Wednesday. So I have work tomorrow. So I was like trying to figure this out today because it was really bothering me because I was having a lot of trouble with the start of this chapter. I wasn't really happy with the scene and what I'd kind of done with it with that initial revision because it's around here that, everything fell apart and I stopped doing that revision. And I was really just like letting myself have fun with it and like seeing what I could do with it. And then I ended up pulling something that wasn't supposed to happen for another chapter or two, but I had it happen in this chapter. And I think it works really well. But where this leaves off, I love it, right? Okay. This chapter 17, I just got to the end of it just now, and it feels really good. The only issue is it kind of screws up the next like 3 or 4 chapters. Like, I can still get it back on track because the last half of this book, I still feel super confident about everything unraveling the way it does. Like, that's where I want it to be. So it's like I need to reach this certain point for the rest of the story to unravel. But getting from where I am now to that point is a little bit murkier. So it's like I need to hit that point kind of at the right spot. I don't want to like ramp things up too early or too late. But I'm really happy with this chapter. I just don't know the implications of what it means later on. So I'm debating because I did end on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Like, this situation is not fully resolved yet. And I'm dying to keep writing this next chapter and like finish out this scene. But yeah, I'm feeling a little bit like I'm flying by the seat of my pants, like I am pantsing. We're no longer on the outline. I mean, it's relatively the same stuff. Like, I'm kind of just juggling things around, but it might mean that stuff that I have set up for like the next 5 or 10 chapters even won't work exactly how I want it to. Like I'm already thinking about taking a chapter that I think comes, I don't even remember how far in advance, but I remember it was like one of the original chapters I had from the previous draft that I've been working from, And I really like that chapter, and I think it might work really well once all this stuff is resolved. I don't know. I just don't know if this stroke of an idea that I have going on right now, this place that like the story just took me without really my intention, is genius, or if I'm making just an entire mess of everything that I've done. I feel like I won't know until I just like commit to this. So before I go into the next chapter, I think I am going to scan ahead to like the next 5 or 10 chapters and see how I can rearrange things, just so I don't feel too panicked by going further down this path. I feel a little disjointed because I've not been getting a lot of writing done. It is now like my Saturday, which is really a Tuesday. And in the last 5 days that I've been working, I have only written on one day because I think 2 days ago I had a little bit of a later start just because I was sent out to do some field work that didn't start till later in the day. But even then, like I had these plans where I was going to write for 1, 2 hours in the morning, and I wrote for like half an hour before I just like started scrolling and reading my book. And not that that's necessarily bad, but I'm just like really wanting to make good progress. And it's like, even when I have the time, I feel like I'm not taking advantage because I feel like on the other days, like there's a couple days where I go straight from work to Frisbee to coming home at like 9, 10 p.m. at night. So that's not like reasonable for me to get any writing done. But there are other days where if all I'm doing is working and then I'm coming home, like I could write, maybe not for multiple hours just because of like being tired or wanting to spend time with my family, but like I could write for half an hour. I just feel like I don't have the right mindset for that. Like in my head, I'm like, I need to have multiple hours free to just like lock in because that's what I was doing before I got this job. And without that, it's just like not possible. But really, like 20, 25 minutes of writing, you can get a decent amount done. And it is actually quite a bit of time. So I have all of today and tomorrow off, which could mean getting a lot of writing done. But I'm also balancing like it's the summer. I'm trying to enjoy summer. I'm trying to enjoy my days off and like really try and feel like I've, given myself a break in those days off and do something that makes me happy. So we're going to go camping tonight. We're hiking out to an alpine lake and I'm really excited. We're about to leave. And so this morning before going, even though I didn't really feel super keen on it because I think I don't have like this consistent routine of writing anymore, so it's like harder to dip back in. I made myself sit down and write. I like pulled up a write with me kind of video on YouTube where they were doing writing sprints. And I was following along, and actually I was kind of annoyed when the writing sprints would end. I was like, I want to keep writing. I want to finish off this thought. And so that felt really good. So I think I wrote for about an hour. I'm still tackling that like second chapter that came off of the one that I was talking about of being like out of left field, crazy plot twist, because honestly, after I wrote this plot twist, I was like so excited and I was like, okay, what's next? Like, kind of anticipating it like a reader would. I'm like, what's the deal? Where are we going to go? And like, I didn't have the solution to it. So it took me a few false starts for me to even just like figure out where I wanted to take it because I don't want it to seem cheap and resolve it too quickly because the consequences of that need to shift the story moving forward. But then I don't want it to be kind of like this end all be all, everything blows up because it's too early in the story for that to happen. So I've kind of like reworked it a few times and I'm happy with where I've landed. And I think part of like why it's just been tough is because there's been a ton of rewriting in this section. And first drafting for me, like I have to get in the right mindset for it, and just like wasn't feeling good the first time around, but like as I've worked through it, it feels a lot better. I still haven't finished the chapter. I'm like pretty close to the end, and now I'm back into a chunk of writing that I pulled from a further chapter, and I'm also using another chapter I've already written as the one that comes after it. So it should be pretty logical on how I'm going to connect it. But I wrote a decent amount of words today. I think just over like 1,000 words as I was like fleshing things out and fixing things and working through my character's internal thoughts mostly because as she's doing this like investigation and figuring things out and dealing with, like her relationships with these characters and she's accusing them of like pretty crazy stuff when she spent all summer with them and like she knows them. And so some of that kind of stuff. And I'm really happy with what it looks like. A small part of me is like disappointed that I'm not going to keep working on this because I have to switch gears and get ready for the hiking. But I think at the same time, like, it's like that thing where like I want to be working on it, but I don't actually like have it in me right now, like the juice to like actually get the writing done. So this is like the perfect place for me to end, where I'm still excited about the story. I have a good idea of what's coming next, but I now have all of this afternoon and then tomorrow morning to think about the story as I'm hiking. And then hopefully tomorrow I can get a decent amount done. I can finish out this chapter, maybe even edit through the next one before I have to start my next week of work. And I would really, really like, no matter what, to try and come up with like maybe not an everyday writing practice, but like really trying to fit in those like half hours where I can, instead of trying to wait for me to have these like multiple hour time blocks that just like don't exist. It's crazy how fast a weekend can be over. I got back from the hike kind of like just after midday today. I was a little tired, but I managed to do some writing. I kind of like got into it by using another one of those like Write With Me streams on YouTube, and that really helped. I actually finished chapter, was it 18? And I'm really happy with how it turned out. I actually went back through it a second time because I don't know, I just don't like doing only half a chapter in one writing session, because I'll keep going, but then I want to make sure it's like not disjointed. So I'll like kind of go back through it from the beginning again. And then I also started working on chapter 19, which is staying basically the same, but I ended up changing the beginning of the chapter quite a bit. So I actually ended up writing like a couple pages, like double spaced, of like the lead into it. And so I'm really getting into the heart of that chapter when I just kind of like lost, not my motivation, I guess I just kind of like lost my momentum, and I started scrolling, and I was like, you know what, maybe it's better that I just get ready for bed, read my book, rather than like sit here and scroll on my phone and like think that I'm going to do more writing when I think I've reached my limit for the night. But overall, I'm really happy with my progress this weekend. And I think I'm in a spot that's like really easy for me to be able to pick it up, even for just like little chunks, because now I'm not changing anything. I'm more like line editing and making sure that I'm still happy with like the line level writing of what I took from the previous draft. So if I manage to find like 15, 20 minutes here and there throughout the week, I don't think it should be a huge ask. It's like the barrier to entry. I'm trying to reduce that so that way it's not like this huge mental load, and it's like easier to convince myself to do it. I'm at my desk, which is the first step to getting any writing done today. This is like the kind of evening where I just don't feel like it, but my goal is to do it, even if it's just 20 or 30 minutes. So it is currently, I think it's like almost 8:30. I have an early morning tomorrow, but like it wouldn't kill me to write for like 20 minutes. I don't need to make any solid progress. Like I don't even have to do much writing. Like I could literally just sit here and think, because I'm at a point where I'm not writing myself into corners, but I keep kind of setting up something, and then I'm like, where do I want to take it from here? Because it's not like I'm making a drastic decision, but I guess I'm maybe overthinking it a little bit. I didn't end up getting any writing done the first day I was working because I was like a frisbee day, so I wasn't expecting it. And then yesterday I actually started later in the day again because I had field work, and the boat went out really late. So I actually didn't start working until 2. I went 2 to 10 p.m. So I think also right now I'm just tired because like I had an early morning again today. Anyways, so I got about an hour and a half of writing yesterday morning, and it went really, really well. So yeah, if I can just get like 20 or 30 minutes in tonight, that would be great. I'm debating either setting like a timer, like my own timer, and writing for the amount of time I want to write, or pulling something up on YouTube, like one of those writing sprints. Because if I do that, I may be able to trick myself into writing longer, because I'm like, the video is going anyways. It's an hour long video. They do a couple writing sprints. I may as well finish it. I may do that. Well, no, I think I'm just going to set my own 25-minute sprint and see where I feel like I'm at that point. But these are the moments where I want to commit to writing a little bit, even when like I feel like I really don't want to. Like I know as soon as I open my laptop and I start writing, I'm going to enjoy it. So that's what I need to do. It is once again the weekend, and I am proud to report that I wrote 3 out of my 5 working days this last week. Not all of them were super successful. The 2 that I missed were the ones where I had Frisbee in the evening, which I kind of knew that was not going to happen. But yeah, I had 2 really long, good writing sessions. And then the third one, the one that I did 2 days ago, was not quite as successful, I would say. I wrote for about like half an hour, and a lot of it was just, I'm not sure really how to connect. I think I've got like maybe 2 chapters before I get to the point where everything is easy after this. Like, I don't really want to change those chapters. All from like the midpoint basically to the end of the book. I might change like some of the dynamics, but everything that happens in those chapters, like I want them to stay the same. So I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do for these last couple of chapters, because I keep trying to like shoehorn stuff in from the previous draft or drafts. And I don't know that that's the right move. So I've instead tried to think about it as like, remove everything from there. Where am I at? Where am I going to? What needs to be the link? And then kind of like go from there. So that way it's like easier to pinpoint what needs to be there and what are things that I'm just like struggling to remove completely. I'm still feeling the repercussions of that one chapter where I made that choice to reveal the thing early, because I want to sustain the tension from there. Right? It has to keep building. So I'm trying not to let it like lapse in these 2 chapters, because like the midpoint, everything goes crazy. And I have no doubt that it'll be strong to the end. But it's just like, as I'm connecting these things, I don't want to lose the momentum and tension that I've built. But then I also want to have certain conversations and certain things be revealed. But then I don't know yet exactly how I want to do that reveal without being not info dumpy, but just like taking a step back in terms of the pacing. And then I've also made a choice for a character dynamic or motivation for one of the secondary characters that originally she hadn't gotten to that point until the midpoint. But what I'm debating, and I don't know, I don't want it to feel regressive, but I'm almost thinking this character's motivation, she kind of said yes to something, but then maybe she's going to backtrack a little because she wasn't actually maybe fully believing it. And once the midpoint happens, she really locks in and she's like, no, I said yes, I'm in, let's do it. So I'm trying out how I want to do that. And I think I'm scared of just full committing and writing it because I feel like it's going to be wrong. And I don't want to write it wrong, even though that's the only way to understand how to write it correctly. So I think that's going to be my goal for this weekend, is trying to figure out how to connect all this to everything to come, because I'm so excited to get into the back half of this book. It is a crazy time. But this will be it for the video because we have successfully gotten back into this book. I am so excited to be working on it. I feel like I've lost some of that like resistance to getting into the draft, especially on work days after work when I'm just like tired and I would rather just be scrolling on my phone. Now I actually feel like this momentum and this excitement to get back into the story, where it's like so much easier to open the document. Hopefully I can just like keep riding this wave. I'm sure there's going to be days where I'm not going to want to write, besides just the days that I play Frisbee. And that's okay, as long as like I'm doing something. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be forward progress. Thank you if you made it to the end of this video, and I will see you next week.